Hey y'all, welcome to the final installment of my Creative Achievements 2017 Roundup and Wrap Up. And um, this section is going to be focused mostly on things that are going on outside of my author brand, outside of marketing, outside of the Rebel Ragdoll Fempire. And it's just going to deal with some more personal updates. We're not going to get too personal because it's never good to put all the tea out there because you do have to protect yourself, your safety, your family, and things like that. But I am going to talk about the things that I feel are relevant to maintaining one's financial health, emotional health, physical health, business health when it comes to being an artist, a single mom, and like a working person, whether you're working full time, part time, whether you're doing freelance, whether you're, burning the candle at both ends, like I do constantly. I think it's really important to really do what I call like a personal assessment of self outside of your businesses. And actually, I was pleased to sort of discover recently that Michael Hyatt actually does a very similar thing and helps like literally thousands of other people to begin to conceptualize their lives on many different levels, not just a business or a financial level, but also on the emotional level, the family level, the personal avocational level, meaning like what are your hobbies looking like, and like are you able to take time for self, on the self-esteem and self-care level, and just on the health level. He really helps you to look at all facets of your life so that you can live not just a successful life, but like a really happy, spiritually balanced life. And that's my goal as well, because I do work extremely hard. I do love everything that I do, but there are times when I do need to take a step back and just take care of self, focus on family, focus on my daughter, focus on my mothering, and just focus on things that don't always necessarily have an end goal attached to them, just being present in the moment. So doing this end of the year personal roundup and sort of reflection really helps me to understand where I can improve and where I'm doing really well. So just to start, I think that I'm doing pretty well when it comes to the business and the craft portion of my life. Even though I don't make all of my business goals and all of my creative output goals every single year, I still make some pretty significant progress on all of my projects and my business endeavors, and still somehow have room to continue to evolve and develop new business endeavors and new projects. And so I'm really happy with how that aspect of my life is actually going. And I'm actually pretty happy with life in general. As a matter of fact, like I just wanted to show you guys this. This is what I call like my blessings jar. I haven't really come up with like a pithier name for it, but this is, and let me just open the top of it so you guys can see. This blessings jar is filled with, for those of you who can't see and who are listening to the podcast, it's basically filled with a bunch of multicolored Post-its that are folded over and that I shove into the jar whenever something really great happens, or even when I'm just in a moment of gratitude and thankfulness for all the blessings that I have in my life, even for the hard times and the challenges that I've had in my life. It helps to remind me all of the wonderful things that I have, and it helps me to sort of stay on the sunny side and to count my blessings and to really just try to be present in the moment, because there are times throughout the year where I am hypercritical of myself as an individual, as a mother, as a student, as a teacher, as a woman, etc., etc. And looking at my blessings jar really helps me to remind me to count my blessings. There's also like some money in here, so I put like my extra change in there to remind myself that financial health is also very important. So that's one thing I wanted to share with you guys, and something that I sort of want to put out there as kind of a suggestion. Not that I'm the life guru, but having this blessings jar has been super, super impactful for me on an emotional level and on a mental level, because it helps me again to register exactly where I am and to just be thankful for the blessings that I have and for the progress that I have made, and to not be so, it reminds me to not be so critical of myself. So at New Year's, I'm going to empty out this jar completely, and except for the money, and I am going to make space for the blessings of the year of 2018. And it's a wonderful process to watch this jar literally fill up with color and with life, and just with all of my accomplishments, and also with the challenges that I've overcome. So that's one thing I wanted to make a major note of. Okay, so I'm going to go through sort of each area of life and, in a very respectable way, go through what I thought was successful and what I thought wasn't. So family and motherhood. This year was actually kind of a rough year, starting off, because unfortunately my grandmother on my mom's side, my mom's mother, passed away this year. And it was actually one of the more unfortunate ways that this year got started off. Literally, as soon as my semester started, she passed away, and I had to go back home and, bury my grandma. And it was very sad. It was very hard for my mom, for many members of our family. And so that was a rough way to start off the year. Throughout the year, though, I think that we've been doing pretty well, especially my mom. She's a very strong person, but, death always sort of stays with you in many ways, and you never really get over it. You just really, get through it. And so, yeah, there's not really much more to say about that, except that it was just an unfortunate way just to start off any year, or to spend anybody's time. Burying someone is always hard. But aside from that, looking at family that is still here, my little girl turned 3 this year, and that was amazing. I can't believe I've been a mom for 3, actually I count 4 whole years, because for women, when we first get pregnant, that's when motherhood begins. That's when our entire lives change. That's when we start making changes in our career, in our family, in our bodies, in our eating, in our health. We start changing the space around us to accommodate this new life. So in my opinion, it really has been 4 years of motherhood, but 3 years wherein she's been outside in the real world. And she's just the most amazing little creature ever. And I love her more than anything in the world. It's been very challenging to mother her, I'm not going to lie. And it's not because of her. It's because I was not personally ready for motherhood when I found out that I was carrying her. So I had to make a lot of changes with myself and with my mindset. And so that was a major challenge for me. She was also a super clingy baby, very much the way I was, except I was 10 times worse when I was an infant. But, she only really wanted mommy ever, which was hard because mommy was still in career mindset. And so I had to really make, again, a spiritual and mental change. And she is my inspiration and my joy. We just saw her Christmas pageant, which was incredible. She was so sweet. And I realized how close we were, because throughout the entire pageant, because I was, of course, being a proud, happy mother, I was in the front row recording her on my camera phone. And she looked at me pretty much the entire time, for inspiration and for strength and for courage. And it was just a very proud moment for me, because I realized finally, instead of criticizing myself so much about just the various ways in which I mother and I raise my daughter, I realized that I was doing a really great job. It's a very hard job. It's one of the hardest jobs in the world. And it's the job of which mothers are most critical when it comes to our self-evaluation. But my daughter was so proud of herself, and I was so proud. And she just constantly looked to me for just clapping for her, shouting her name, cheering her on to show her that she's doing a great job. And I realized in that moment that I'm a badass mom. So that was a period of growth for both of us. And I'm really proud of her, and she's just wonderful. Um, and I also got to spend more time with my own mom this year when I went into like my very first surgery, which was really terrifying, honestly. I mean, it wasn't a serious surgery. It was just like, it was I wouldn't say it's like a maintenance surgery, but like it was a pregnancy related surgery. And so it wasn't serious at all. It wasn't anything like life threatening, but it was the first time I had ever been put under for anything. And so, anything can happen on the table. And my mom came, we had a really good time. She spent time with the baby. And so, yes, I'm going to actually use that as a segue into the physical health aspect of this, of this update. I really this year have been making a lot of moves to not only improve the way in which I treat my body and what I put into my body, but just to like maintain it. There's still a lot of things that I would love to improve on. Absolutely. And I think one of those things that I really want to focus on is just not just being healthy, but being at literally like the top of my game. Like being able to, run 5 miles a day, run, 1Ks, be able to like to lift a certain like level of weight to get back into martial arts. That's definitely what I want to do for 2018. But this year I've been doing so much better. Have a really great bill of health, thankfully. And like I've been improving upon like my daily regimen by like taking vitamins, like working on posture, daily walks, and a little bit more exercise and more sleep. But there are definitely modes and areas that I can improve on, especially with the sleep. I think that's the biggest challenge for me, is to make sure I get down every night for a solid 8 hours of sleep. And even if it's disjointed, to just get somewhere between 7 and 9 hours of sleep every 24 hours is a goal. And so that is something that I think I've done really well on, but I definitely want to improve on in the future. Diet is also super important. I very rarely eat red meat. I love red meat, but I don't eat it as much because it's actually really hard for the body, at least my body. I don't know about you guys, but it's hard for the body to digest, and you can feel it. Like you can feel your entire digestive system slow down after that big ass hamburger. You know what I'm saying? So I will have a hamburger because I do love hamburgers on occasion, but not nearly as much as me eating fish and then chicken. Fish is like my number one thing that I do. Fish, roasted vegetables, pasta, water. I do need to, I am trying to reduce like the intake of like sugar and juices, and soda as well. So this is some interesting little small tweaks that you guys can make to your diet. By substituting soda with flavored sparkling water. It has like almost 0 grams of sugar and like nowhere near the number of calories. And most importantly, there's no high fructose corn syrup in most sparkling waters, but they taste just like soda. So that's something I've definitely made a move towards, and it's been great. Also just like doing little substitutions. I don't cook really with vegetable oil anymore. I only cook with olive oil, because that's like the healthier oil, and something you can eat a little bit more of without having the disadvantages of like, plaque and things like that. Not that you should just be like, eating oil day and night, but olive oil is definitely a better substitute. And you can make most things with olive oil, with the exception of maybe like frying chicken or something. But you can also oven fry your chicken, which is great. That's another thing too, FYI, that I don't really do. And actually our family never really has done on a regular basis, is that we don't really deep fry things. I've never really deep fried much of anything. And even if I do, that basically like is a very rare occurrence. So very happy with the physical health. There are improvements I can make. I want to be like just like badass, like action figure level health next year. And so that's my goal, to get enrolled in martial arts, to like really like up my in shape game. But I'll talk about that in the 2018 video. I'm going to skip over financial health right now, because that's actually like the biggest level of improvement. And I want to talk to you guys about not just my own strides in 2017, but things that I think are helpful for you guys in financial like health and self-care. I'm going to skip over that to do the emotional self-care. So as you guys saw, a big part of that was my happiness and blessings jar, which is great. I also made a very, very stark decision this year, especially after a conversation I had with a friend that just pissed me off to no end. I decided I was no longer going to speak, read, or listen to the language of fear, whether that be personal fear, professional fear, creative fear, or business fear. I'm just not doing it. I realized that I was talking to a friend about like Rebel Ragdoll, and this individual said basically that like, I mean, in not so many words, that it probably won't be successful. And this person wasn't saying this to bring me down, but they thought that they were just being realistic and they were preparing me for the fact that I would probably have to work some full-time job that I hated while I built this up on the side, which is, of course, a possibility. At the same time, that's not my commitment. That's not what I've been experiencing in my business. I've only experienced growth and sort of a deeper foundation. I also have my own definition of success and what it is I need to live and raise my daughter comfortably. And I've already sort of did the math on that and done my evaluations and planned for my growth. And I'm already exceeding my goals even for this year. So I can't even imagine what the next year and a half is going to be while I finish out my grad degree. And I realized that this individual was just speaking from their own personal worldview and their own personal experience. And that even though they were doing their best to be as supportive as possible and as realistic as possible, that I really could not take their words to heart, because ultimately my path is going to be decided by me. And nobody ever knows what the future is going to hold. And this person also just generally has their own way of moving through the world and has their own successes, their own challenges, and their own blockades that they have to work through, just like the rest of us do. And to a certain extent, they were trying to warn me about the potential pitfalls of Rebel Ragdoll, but speaking from their own place of fear and their own place of block. And I had to recognize sort of where, this person began and where I ended, or rather where they ended and I began. And I just decided at that moment, not to surround myself with people who were delusional, but to surround myself with people who would say, you know what, like, you do have some major goals, but here are the ways in which you can achieve these goals. And these are the things you can do in case you don't, but you'll still be working towards your goals. Like, that's the kind of energy that I want in my space and in my circle. And at that moment, I decided, one, on the emotional energy that I wanted, and two, that I was no longer going to speak that language of fear. I'm just not going to do it, because the things that I'm achieving in my lifetime and even in this year could not have even been predicted by anyone. There's no way that I could have known in January that I was going to have a successful 4-figure, 100,000 plus subscriber business that I built in just under half a year. Like, there's no way we could have predicted that would have happened. Just like there's no way we can predict if bad things or unfortunate things are going to happen. But if I had spoken that language of fear to myself when establishing New Adult Noir, or continuing with Rebel Ragdoll, or with expanding my development slate, or with working on my novels, etc., I would have never discovered the great need in the author community for something like New Adult Noir. And I would have never achieved that as a goal. I would have never hit those milestones if I had spoken fear to myself and to the world. So I'm letting go of the language of fear. It doesn't mean being illogical. It doesn't mean being delusional. It just means having a dream, turning that into a goal, whittling your goals down into milestones and day-to-day things you can do to reach those goals, and just sitting down and doing the work. And that's what my business and my life is about. There are a lot of things I'm afraid of, but it's just about whittling down the big goals into smaller steps and then literally doing the work. And if you are afraid to do the work, then find people who will help you to do the work. The end. If you care about something, you'll make it happen. And so I just decided I was going to say yes to myself. And like Shonda Rhimes says, say yes to the things that scare me. So we can just, you can miss me with all the negativity, basically. One other emotional major breakthrough that I did have, though, that has nothing to do with the language of fear, was me finally understanding and accepting, and to a certain extent, creating for myself a place for myself in graduate school. I, for the past year and a half, was literally trying to interact and engage with graduate school as though I were still, when did I start going to graduate school? In 2009, as though I were still, a 24, 25-year-old, single woman who had no children and who had all the time in the world. And I could not, I realized this year, I can't move through my program in that way. I need to understand that my life is different. I have a business that makes me money and that I have to maintain. So that's essentially my job and my career. I have an entire daughter, basically an entire family to take care of, which includes, not just raising her, loving her, being there for her, and, taking care of her emotionally and physically, but financially and also space-wise. I have to take out time to maintain my space, to cook, to clean, you know what I'm saying? Make sure my daughter is getting healthy home-cooked meals and we're not just eating takeout every single night, if possible. During finals week and during the finals month, it's pizza all day, every day. Sorry, it is what it is. But every other day of the year, every 2 to 3 days, I'm cooking, I'm trying to introduce her to new things, and I have those things in addition to my curriculum in graduate school and my TA-ship that I have to work in order to maintain my scholarship. And I have all these different things to balance, and I can't run through life as though grad school is the only priority and I don't have anything else going on. I was doing that for the first year, and I was having literally an emotional and physical breakdown because I was so hard on myself for not meeting all these ridiculous, lofty grad school goals. And I realized too that the more that I tried to hold myself to, the single childless woman standard, the more other people were holding me to that standard. And I'm just like, no, we're going to sit back and acknowledge the reality of my situation, which was my situation when I got here, which is that I am a single mom. I am a business owner, so I have a job, and I am also enrolled as a full-time graduate student, also enrolled as a graduate teaching assistant with all this grading and all these students to manage. So we're going to keep this in balance and not be crazy. That's what we're going to do. And if you have a problem with that, then I can't help you. And I even had to step back and explain to one of my professors in a very respectful way that while graduate school is a major priority for me, there are going to be times when I'm going to fall behind, or I'm going to miss an assignment, or I have to stay out of class because my daughter is sick and I am the only person who can stay home with her. And that sucks, and that's not anybody's fault or problem. And I have no problem taking the hit on my grade or my GPA for that, because that's just what I signed up for. But this is just how it is. And you're going to have to understand this. And it doesn't mean that I disrespect your class or I don't respect your work. It just means that I have to keep in balance all the realities of my particular situation. And if that affects my grade, then it affects my grade. I had to explain this to this professor that the class was important to me. I had the utmost respect for him and his class, but that ultimately I could not measure myself by my grades, because they weren't always going to be a reflection of my dedication, my intelligence, and my drive, simply because I had all these other responsibilities to balance and to manage, and that my main focus is to grow as an artist and to develop skills as an artist in this MFA program, and that is it. Anything else can go, kick rocks by the wayside. That was a major point of emotional growth, and that did not happen for me until I was literally at the end of my rope in mid-semester this fall, and I just I walked out of class and I just broke down crying in the bathroom. And I was like, this is not how I want to live my life. I want to be happy, fulfilled, and growing. And this perspective I'm taking is not helping me to get there. So there are times where you guys are going to have to literally put your foot down and stand up for yourself and advocate for yourself and your situation. And if people don't expect it or support it, then that's just too damn bad. I think it's a major lesson for me, but it's also a major lesson that I think single moms, other people should take away from this, but single moms especially, who have the work of two people on top of them, who have the financial burdens of two people on top of them, who have all the expectations of a two-person job heaped onto one person, in addition to the dreams and goals and career stuff that you have going on, that you had going on before you had a child. And we need to really just cut ourselves some slack, give ourselves some grace, and just tell the world, listen, we are here. We are, this is how it is. This is our situation. We are dedicated to, rising to the standards of everybody else. But the bottom line is that we need some kind of flexibility agreement. And if we're going to have social institutions that we are paying for, or that we are paying into our taxes for, those social institutions need to be prepared. And this means like education, any sort of social institution that benefits society. These institutions need to be prepared to be flexible for everybody who is in this society, not just single childless people, but for people with families, whether those are two-parent families or, blended families, or single mom or single dad families, single mothers, single fathers. I mean, there are different kinds of people in this society, and we need to start standing up for ourselves and not apologizing for our situations, empowering ourselves, and then asking people to meet us halfway. There's nothing wrong with that. Nothing wrong with that. So that was a major point of emotional growth for me this year, and I am super proud of myself, and I am not budging, and I'm going to keep growing and keep pushing the institution around me to grow with me as well. Spiritual self-care, super important, but I did start on a spiritual practice this year, but I have not developed it into a daily practice. And so that's going to be a goal for 2018. You guys, if you know anything about me or know me personally, you know that I am not a religious person, but I am a spiritual person, and I am a spiritually acknowledging person. I don't believe that humans are the ultimate and end all and be all of manifestations of energy in this universe or on this planet, and that we are all connected through some sort of higher spiritual manifestation. I don't know what it is. I'm not a hardcore Christian. I'm not really, I don't really prescribe to organized religion like that, but I do believe that there are things outside of our understanding that just exist in our universe, and that but you can only come to that realization if you've had an experience that just convinces you 1,000% that there is something bigger than yourself going on here. And I've had multiple experiences of that sort in my life. So I'm a spiritual person, and I really wanted to engage a little bit more with gratitude practice, prayer practice, and some limited spiritual study. So I did start with that this year, and I do pray occasionally, usually to like the larger universe or to God, Again, I don't prescribe to Christianity, but the higher being that I like acknowledge, or the higher energy that I acknowledge, I do call God, because that's like, my family is religious, and that's just like the name that I learned for anything higher than yourself. But I do need to improve on my spiritual practice, and I will be doing that for 2018. I also invested a little bit more in myself, like my self-love and self-care, in terms of just like, I went shopping for clothes, like for the first time in almost like a year. I mean, literally, that happened. My first shopping spree in 3 years happened around spring of 2016. And then I went on a second shopping spree to update my closet and wardrobe a few months ago. And it was great. I was just like, wow, this is what it's like to be a woman and a human, a whole damn human being outside of everything that I'm doing. I like have a body, and a very nice looking body, that I like to dress up in clothes that fit me and that are comfortable and that are sexy. Let me go and update my wardrobe so I'm not, running around in hoodies and baggy clothes and head wraps all day, which is what I do because I'm a grad student. But I have been able to, go out in the town a little bit more, go to theater events in town and go to like, some of my favorite spots occasionally when I have time. And I go out to the movies and hang out with like my girlfriends, and like, wow, developing like a self-love and social self-care regimen is wonderful. Taking care of the body is great. And I'm just like, wow, I haven't done that since really becoming a mother. And like, I forgot how good this feels. So that was a nice breakthrough for me in 2017. I also discovered the power of Sephora makeup, which is wonderful. I'm not wearing anything now. I usually do like to try to keep my skin as like makeup clean, quote unquote, as possible, with like just, an occasional face wash, because my skin is usually not that oily. A nice face wash occasionally. And then I will do like eyelash curling and lip balm and lip gloss. That's usually what I do. But this year I like expanded my repertoire a little bit with some concealer, some brightening powder to kind of set the concealer. And I think next year I might even explore some like eyeshadows or whatever, just building a little bit at a time. Literally in like my first foray into the world of makeup in like my entire 32-year-old life. And I'm just like, oh, this is really fun and awesome, and it looks really pretty. No wonder women are obsessed with this. Which I love. But I'm still doing like the basic, physical care with like shea butter on my face and stuff like that. So yeah, super, super exciting just to take care of oneself. And then hobbies, that's the biggest point of improvement that I need to make this year, is that I just need to take more time to engage in my hobbies. Take more time to just like watch movies and TV. I know that sounds like a really lazy hobby to most people, but for me, it's sort of not. I enjoy looking at the cinematography and the plotting and the character development in a movie and in a TV show. It's also just great entertainment, but it also, for me, it's also like helping me to hone my craft. Being that I want to be a filmmaker, you need to watch film. You need to be familiar and well versed in film. And so I want to engage more with that as sort of like a slightly targeted hobby. And not only just like watch more movies and watch more TV, like good movies and good TV, but study the bodies of work of certain directors. Like, like some of my most favorite Hong Kong action directors or people that I really enjoy here. Like I'm a huge fan of Martin Scorsese, Quentin Tarantino. I really enjoyed a lot of David Fincher's stuff. I love Ava DuVernay. I really want to get into the genres and the directors whose work I truly, truly admire. Gareth Evans, who's relatively new on the scene, who directed The Raid and The Raid 2. I am a super fan of his, and I will be watching every single movie that has come out from him. And then also looking at the bodies of work of actors that I really admire, both, dramatic actors and then like action actors. So, and then studying movies by genre and by time period. Like I do want it to be a hobby, but also sort of a path of study for me so I can improve on my own craft. So that's something I definitely need to do more of. Getting into martial arts, definitely going to do that in 2018. Didn't do that this year, unfortunately, because I didn't have time, but I have more time from graduate school lessening up in 2018. Languages and travel. I miss traveling so much, guys. Like once I started traveling in 2011, I caught the bug and I just can't get rid of it. And then I went back again in 2013 to do another backpacking trip. And since becoming a mom in 2014, I have not been outside of the country, which is, for me, unacceptable. But I'm going to, if I can't do it in 2018, which is unlikely, I will definitely do it in 2019 and probably take my first international trip with my daughter in 2019. I might also bring along like my mom or someone like that. It'd be nice to take like a little trip overseas, all of us. And then on top of it, my family won't have to worry about me being alone overseas with my with my 4-year-old. So wasn't able to really engage with travel or language as much. As you guys know, I started with Russian this year, which I'm super excited about, but I wasn't able to keep that up. And so I do want to study that in more depth for 2018 and also brush up on the other 6 or 7 languages that I've studied over my time, just to keep that in rotation. It's super important for me to remain on top of my game as a polyglot. It's something I'm really proud of, and something I think is just important as a citizen of the world to be able to communicate with other people. That's just how I feel. I did take a lot more time, though, to cook and bake this year, which is another major hobby of mine. I love gourmet cooking. I love gourmet baking. And so it was great. I actually took some time to do some treats. I finished Gordon Ramsay's like cooking masterclass and learned how to make a perfect poached egg and some more really great stuff. And I hope to keep expanding on that in the future. Hopefully by looking at doing some more pies and doing more French recipes next year. And of course, with the opening of the Blackheart Boulange and the Blackheart Bakery brand, I'll be doing even more of that in Q4 of 2018. I also wanted to get into some hands-on arts and crafts this year, but that just didn't happen. Like crocheting and knitting. Like I really just want to sit in my house like an old granny and like, with like a radio or a podcast on in the background or a movie on and just like knit and just like sit and knit and just chill with like some hot cocoa. Like I do just want to do that. And I'm looking forward to hopefully building on that in 2018. All right. So that's everything except for the biggest area that I've grown in this year personally, and that has been in my financial health, both personally and for my business. And this year has been literally the year of like, I don't know what to call it, like the financial like awakening or something, like I don't know, but I took so many courses with Dr. Boyce Watkins' Black Business School, so many courses with Andre C. Hatchett's Black Real Estate School, so many courses with Tiffany, the Budgetnista, that basically helped me understand more about money, managing money, credit, savings, what else? She has now, which is amazing, she has the Budgetnista Net Worth course that's coming out that I've already signed up for. I learned so much about investing. So it's just been a gangbuster year for me in my financial growth and in me just improving day by day my financial health. My knowledge has basically exploded. I went from 0 to like 1,000% knowledge on different areas of finance just because I chose to make a difference in my financial education. I learned about, the 5 pillars of economic freedom, which include, investments, real estate, credit, entrepreneurship, and then asset protection. And I have made improvements in my life on every single pillar. And it's just been an amazing transformation for me, especially as a single mother and also as a business owner and as an artist. And I just have developed a strong belief that we do not have to be living paycheck to paycheck. We do not have to be struggling all the time. We do not have to be, just drowning in, our financial lack of health. Like we don't have to be in those places if we just educate ourselves and create action plans and then execute those financial action plans in our lives. And so I have really focused on building up those 4 pillars of my economic freedom such that I can, in 2019, when I graduate, have a booming business that is steadily growing and that's giving me everything that I need financially, spiritually, emotionally, and intellectually, such that I have investments and assets like stocks, mutual funds, bonds that are growing and that are growing my portfolio, such that I have invested in real estate, which I will be doing in 2018, thankfully, to help build my wealth, and such that I am engaging in 24/7 comprehensive asset protection, by making sure I'm insured, making sure my business is insured, making sure that all of my estate and wills are put together for not just my family, and like my daughter, but also for my business. Like if God forbid something happens to me, what happens to my business? Who does it belong to? Where does it go? Those are things that are super important in terms of protecting your assets before, during, and after you having grown those assets. And so experiencing this mental, physical, and financial transformation has been so powerful for me that basically money is on my mind 24/7. And I don't mean it in a greedy sort of industrialist, hyper oppressive way, but just thinking about the many ways in which I can diversify my portfolios. I can build my wealth as a single mom, as a woman, as a business owner, and as an artist. And that has been like life-changing for me, such that even on this wall right here, I basically track all the education that I've been getting and all the progress that I have made for all these 5 pillars of my economic and financial foundation. And so it's also encouraged me to start thinking about putting together a 5-track course it might even be a whole separate damn school from the Bohemian Badass School for Creatives, but I really want to put together a 5-track course for wealth building for artists, specifically for artists, because people tend to think that the starving artist trope is something that we should just be celebrating and just kind of sitting in and chilling with. And I do not agree. Like I do not agree or believe in the concept of the starving artist. As I mentioned in like a past segment for this update, we are as essential to the longevity and survival of mankind as food, air, and water and money is, or capital is. Because while food and water and air are nourishing the physical body, and while, capital is helping to advance our, resources in certain areas, art helps to preserve the soul of our society. It helps to preserve the intellect and helps to evolve us on a spiritual, emotional, and mental level. And it's really the one thing that we have, that and our higher consciousness and self-awareness. That's the one thing that we have that no other being on this planet has, is the ability to produce art. I mean, with the exception of maybe, some new AI programs that are coming out now who are able to write novels or whatnot. However, they are not the same kinds of art that we can produce as human beings. Our brains are super complex and complicated, and we haven't even tapped like even an iota of its power. And I believe that art in itself helps to create a different sort of bridge between ourselves and the world around us, and a bridge between ourselves and other people. So I'll be damned if I am told that as an artist who is as integral to this civilization as anybody else, that I should be starving and I should be poor and I should not be prosperous financially and not be secure financially. That is bullshit, and I'm not accepting it. And I don't want you to accept that either. So I'm going to keep learning, keep hustling, keep growing in these 5 areas of financial freedom and wealth building. And literally by the end of 2018, I want to start developing courses for each of these 5 tracks to help teach you guys more about just principles of personal finance, business finance, investments, real estate, and things you can do even as a broke ass artist, a currently broke artist, not eternally broke, because we don't believe in the starving artist trope, but things you can do as a broke ass artist currently to stop being a broke ass artist and to be an artist who is actively building your wealth and protecting your assets and growing your business and improving your credit and just creating a really lovely nest egg that can support you, your family, and also allow you to freely participate in the art that you want to make and you want to give to the world. So having said that, it's been a really great year for my personal aspects of life. There have been many challenges that I haven't gone through completely in all their complexity and and in all their truth, because there are just certain things that are just like a little too personal to share. We do have to set some boundaries. But I feel like I've really pulled through those challenges this year, and I've become a stronger person. And I really cannot wait to reach into this jar, put all these things, in the past, and have an empty jar waiting to be filled with blessings and gratitudes for 2018. So this is the end of the 2017 Creative Achievements Roundup and Wrap Up. And I really hope that you enjoyed going through this. I don't know how long this is going to be when I finally put it together, probably like a 5 to 6 hour journey of what I've gotten done throughout this year. But I hope you enjoyed it. But more importantly, I hope that you were able to get some kind of inspiration, education, and just some tools from my wrap up that I've done this year. And I just want to wish you a very, very happy beginning of 2018. And I hope that you've been able to do the things that you want to do for 2017. And I just know that I'm super excited to get started on the next year. And just wanted to thank you again for staying with me on this journey. So with that, I'm going to close this off, upload these videos, create pretty much probably the longest podcast ever known to mankind by stringing all the audio of these videos together and upload it so that it's available for you guys this Sunday, December 31st, and you can listen to what I've been doing this whole year. All right. So, happy holidays, happy 2018, and I will be next reporting in with you guys not only on the 31st for this particular wrap up, but on January 1st with a fresh new slate and a whole bunch of goals for each area of life and each area of business that I want to achieve in 2018. So stay tuned, stay badass, keep it indie, and I will see you guys on the next podcast. Happy New Year! Woo! Peace.